So this presentation is on electroplating and electrolysis. So what is electrolysis? Well, electrolysis is just a chemical reaction that's brought about by adding an electric current to the system. And electroplating, well, that's just a type of electrolysis, a specific type that involves one metal being plated on top of another, still using the electric current. So let's visualise. We've got a beaker with some chrome sulfate solution, piece of steel, piece of chrome. Piece of steel is on the negative end of the battery, the piece of chrome on the positive end. What's in the solution? Well, you've got chrome sulfate. So you've got chrome ions and sulfate ions. We'll ignore the sulfate ions for now. The chrome ions, as you can see, have a positive charge. So they're going to be attracted towards the negative end of the battery, which is attached to the piece of steel, with the electrons flowing down the wire of the piece of steel, which have a negative charge. So the positive chromium ions are attracted to it until they eventually meet the piece of steel. They pick up the electrons, or they accept them, and form chromium metal. So you've had the chrome ions, which are a plus charge, accept electrons, become chrome metal, and plate on the outside of the piece of steel. This is called a reduction reaction, and you can see the equation there. Cr3 plus A minus goes to Cr. The chromium metal has become plated on the steel electrode. And as you can see, the electroplate will build up thicker and thicker over the piece of steel. If the concentration of the solution is high, it will plate faster. If you leave it on there longer, it will plate more. Okay, let's have a look at what goes on at the other electrode. So far, we've seen this piece of steel being plated with chromium ions, but the piece of chrome on the other side is starting to be dissolved. Chromium metal atoms are starting to form chromium ions. Chrome ions are going into solution to replace those that have been plated on the electrode on the other side. So you can see the electrode starting to corrode away while the ions are forming. It's also forming electrons. So the chromium metal is forming chromium ions that are going in solution and releasing electrons that are travelling back to the battery. The battery then of course uses them on the other side to plate out the chromium ions as chromium metal. So, as the chromium electrode keeps dissolving away, the equation will be set up so that chromium metal forms chromium 3 plus ions and releases those 3 electrons that are travelling back to the battery. And you can see the equation written there. This is called an oxidation equation and shows the electrons being released as the chromium atoms dissolve to form chromium ions, which are then put back into solution and will be plated out eventually on the piece of steel as chromium metal. So you can see the full effect of the circuit here, where one metal is being plated and the other metal is being dissolved. Thus ends the presentation.